live. I'm PM Asher. I'm the marketing director here at Trend Entertainment. I'm adjusting my chair, so ignore the sound from that. And here we have Daniel Haddad, who's one of our creative directors.
Hey everyone.
On Dungeon Defenders 2.
Yep.
So I think this patch is going to be a lot about, this patch.
We're working a lot with the patch, so.
My thoughts are getting ahead of myself. So obviously this is the first Devstream since our patch came out. I'm going to move a little bit more onto the camera. Apparently that's why the chair was there in the first place. So we're going to be talking about the patch. We're going to be addressing your feedback. Let me steal the mouse from you 1 second. I want to make sure that we have these comments. It's like this ad that popped up over the comment section. Hold on. Yeah, I can see myself moving the mouse in your stream. So your alt-tab skills are weak.
My alt-tab skills are so strong.
So come on.
Look, you're already out of it. You're just going the wrong way.
Oh, you're right. My mouse skills are weak. Okay, so hopefully Twitch's new advertising, you can take it back, doesn't ruin our reading the comments.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So we're gonna start with the very obvious one. It's the reason why I Pass Butter here started in the private tavern and not in the social tavern. That's because there's obviously a lot of lag issues on the social tavern. So that's number one on Josh's feedback list from us. We also know it. We've had about 10 of the engineers sitting down furiously trying to solve this problem. We are getting very close to a fix. They're actually testing it for like the 5th time now, so I'm not going to promise anything, but it was actually a really low-level issue with UE3 that we haven't quite solved yet. However, it appears that if we run it on Windows servers and not on Linux servers, then the issue isn't there. So that's what we're testing right now for the social taverns, to run those instances on a different type of server.
Mm-hmm.
So
until we figure out what's going on.
Until we figure out what's going on with it and fix it, and then in which case we'll switch back to Linux servers. So once again, we are actively investigating and trying to fix that issue, and hopefully it'll be fixed soon. So if your feedback is, oh, we're loading for so long, or we can't play, we can't get to the social tavern, we really apologize. And we hope that you will be able to check out the rest of the awesome stuff in the patch soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I Pass Butter here is playing the new patch. What are you playing on here?
We got into the incursions, so we're gonna try the incursions out.
All right, so you guys are doing the
Heavy enemies, Chrome enemies
incursion. So you want to talk a little bit about this incursion really quick, and maybe some of the feedback that we've seen on it, and what's going to be going on in the future with it?
So in this incursion mode, what we have is a bunch of modifiers on the enemies. All the enemies, when they spawn in, they'll have a kind of chrome material on them. They cannot be knocked up, they cannot be CC'd, and they have, I think, a bit more health. So basically, you guys have to figure out how to deal with them. We know that CC is a very powerful thing in our game, and it's a very powerful part of strategies up to this point. So all of this incursion is all about figuring out how to do without it. And as for the feedback we've gotten so far, we know that the incursion modes are kind of not super challenging right now for the people who already have their endgame gear. But for people who are just starting out or have transitioned from 25++ to the incursion modes, that's kind of what we were looking into, or building this encounter around. So for all of you out there who have all your legendary gear already, we'll have something tough for you in the future. Right now, it's basically all about trying to get those endgame special weapons.
Mm-hmm. So I think that there was actually a bug with the loot drops.
Yeah, there were a few bugs with the loot drops. Basically, the special weapons that we talked about that appear on this map, they weren't dropping, and there were issues with the actual item levels and things like that. We're actually working on that now. We're testing it internally, and once that's good to go, we'll upload it. And
so are you finished working on it?
We are in testing mode now.
Okay,
yes.
we are in testing because I think 10 minutes ago there was a different answer to that question.
We are literally testing it right now, and if you were unlucky enough to get one of the new special legendaries, and you don't have the special stat on it, you will actually retroactively replace that for you. So you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, how do we do that?
With some magic.
With magic? Okay, cool. That's awesome. Okay, so you heard it here. If you've already found a legendary in the incursions and it doesn't have the special stat on it, it will get the special stat on it. And hopefully in the next hotfix, which we do, we'll be increasing or fixing the bugs really on this map that make the loot dropping less than they were before. Now, just recapping again what Haddad said is that some of the, and I'm probably going to do that a lot just to make sure everyone hears everything, because there's about 30 new people who just joined in right now, that there is a lower level loot dropping on this map than there should be, so the higher level loot is going to drop on this map. We have rebalanced kind of the normal 25 difficulty for the incursions to follow that. And so then after the incursions will be, I think, the 25++ hard, which is going to come in
hard
a future foundation patch. So
we're currently
that'll be 25++ hard in addition to the incursion hard modes.
Yep.
Cool. So you heard it from his mouth. Those are coming in the future. So if you guys have any questions or feedback from the patch that you want us to address or about the game in general, please post them in the chat. We're going to be going through a lot of the feedback that everyone has given us on the forums, talking about this hotfix that we have coming up. And in addition to that, just having iPassButter play the patch. So I think the next major feedback we have here is the dislike of the 2 tavern systems. So can you maybe talk a little bit about what we plan for Foundation Part 2? Maybe not in details, but just kind of generally what we have recognized are the issues with the system from players, and then some potential options to solve them.
So basically our entire matchmaking system we're not very fond of. The idea of going into a map, into your hub, picking your level range, wherever, and then going back to the hub and picking that, that's not a very interesting flow. We're looking into ways to cut that down to one hub, having you pick the map you want to go into and transition to that, having you easily be able to hop between maps. These are the things that we're currently working on, we currently have planned. So yeah, we know our matchmaking is not great, and we're doing our best to fix it, and we have some cool things we're working on that'll hopefully solve some of these issues.
And I've actually just seen the proposal wiki that he and Jay will be on in a little bit, posted, and it's a major improvement from what we have now. So I don't know how long it's going to take to get the wiki document into code and then into the game, but we'll definitely be there in the future. So that's something that everyone's looking at. So actually, can you grab the door?
Yeah,
I'll open a little bit. Okay, perfect. We're getting distracted by some of the people outside. Okay, cool. Well, not as distracted as during the last live stream, which I was able to ignore, and we can talk about that another time. So we've already actually also gone through the 3rd feedback here, which is about the lack of hard mode. And we've gone through the 4th one, which is the loot drops. We're really on the ball. So what about upgrading items? Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe some of the inconvenience players are having in the future?
That was a bit surprising for us internally. We were basically playtesting our incursions, and we wanted to upgrade our gear, and we took one item from level 1 to like level 25, and it took forever to actually upgrade it. We noticed that a little late, but that should be going in a hotfix. Basically, if you skip it, you're going to be able to skip all of them if you level up an item multiple times. So yeah, that's our bad. We noticed it a little too late, and we'll be able to fix that very shortly.
Is that something that's going to be in the next hotfix or probably a future one?
I believe it should be in the. Jason's looking right now.
Jason's like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
We'll see.
So it's definitely going to be in a future fix. I think it's something that you actually came to me like a week ago, and you were like, I can't believe this takes so long to upgrade. Why does it do it? And so yeah, it's something that we're looking at to fix. So let's see here. Let's see, some of the other feedback that we got here has to do with matchmaking too. So maybe actually this one I think would be fun to announce here on the stream, because I think people will be excited about it. But just confusion regarding like the hero deck and campaign level restrictions, and not being able to bring certain heroes into maps and the campaign mode and stuff. What are we doing to fix that?
We're looking at that a lot. Obviously, the hero deck is quite a complicating factor when it comes to our matchmaking system, and what we're hoping to do is allow you to bring those heroes in potentially in your private sessions. So if you want to go into a map and switch out your low level hero, potentially you can. Obviously, in public games, we still strongly believe that you shouldn't switch out to like a level 1 hero in level 20 or 25 area, but we'll let you carry them in. So there won't be any confusion. No menu is telling you, hey, we're going to remove this thing for you. We'll
so
just not let you swap.
You'll have them in your deck.
You'll have them in your deck.
In the map.
But you can't swap.
Like grief the 25 player by switching to the 1 player and placing a bunch of really weak like traps. Okay, that sounds like a very interesting thing I want to try. So let's see, we're trying to look through some of the comments for some questions too. So we love feedback on the map, on this map on the incursion mode, in addition to the patch as well. There's one huge feedback on which I'm trying to read, so excuse me while I pause and read it some. So this is a question, will there be any really hard content, more bosses, or more awesome things that change the way you build?
Yes, certainly. We're working on pretty much all of these right now. Can't really talk specifically about them. We're working on some game mode prototypes. We're working on some new boss modes, new mini bosses, new incursions, new special enemies, and those are all basically designed around you guys figuring out how to deal with a new set of rules that you guys aren't used to and how you're going to build around it.
Cool. And then we have a question here, which you've already kind of answered, but I actually have a fun thing we can maybe talk about in regards to it. And it's, will we be changing the way so the two tavern system works? So I think we answered that we are going to be trying to move to a one tavern system. I think some good insight. And I don't even remember why do we have the two tavern system in the first place?
We had a lot of technical restrictions just in the way our sessions and our tech works. That has since been resolved. All the things that we wanted, we basically sat down and said, hey, we want all this stuff for matchmaking. And our tech people said, we support almost none of them. So we had to figure out how to build something that works initially, and now that the tech's actually catching up, we can actually do a better experience.
Cool. So let's see. So one person here says, I think this is actually a message for technical support. I wish I was able to play the game. It has something to do with DD2 to open ports. But basically, as long as I'm the account hosting, I just get disconnected. Oh, I don't think you're hosting the game because the server's host, but I think that actually this was a question that just got asked recently to support, and we sent them a list of ports that you needed open to play the game if you're behind, a school firewall or some other thing. So please, if you have a question, either ask IMISM, and he can get you a link. Maybe he'll even post a link here to those ports, and that should help you play the game, hopefully. So let's see here. So we've gone through the major feedback. We have this huge list of questions, this 2-page list of questions that I'm going to start going through with Haddad as well. And then if you guys please feel free to ask questions here. We'd love to take feedback from the patch, talk about it, talk about some of the reasons why certain things happened or not as well. So I think before I start reading these questions, can you tell me a little bit about some of the hero balance changes that went in and people's feedback on them, and then where do you think we're going to go in the future on that?
Yeah. So we did a lot of changes to some of the heroes' kits. We did a lot of changes to range. Range obviously was massively overhauled. What we did for tower ranges, we basically picked a role for each tower that we wanted them to fulfill, and we stuck them within those small, medium, large, extra large ranges, and they stay within those ranges. We tweaked the damage numbers and the functionality of certain towers based on what we thought was a good idea. A perfect example is the Poison Dart Tower, which potentially wasn't very useful in the past. Now it's kind of our first damage over time tower. You put it somewhere kind of off in the corner, it'll hit an enemy, and it adds a dot that just keeps ticking for probably like 100 seconds. And if it hits the same target over and over, the dot increases substantially over time. Enemies also have a lot more health because towers and stuff have been buffed along the way. The next step would be looking at enemies, trying to have them have specific roles that challenge your different builds and setups and things like that. And that's something we're looking at for Foundation 2 or 3 potentially in the future.
Cool. So let's see, we have some questions here for recaps of stuff we've already answered, but I'm going to answer it again because I don't feel like telling people to wait until we post this on YouTube to watch the answer again. So yes, we're working on a hotfix for the lag issues. There's like a low-level UE3 thing that we've kind of figured out doesn't happen on Windows servers, but happens on Linux servers. We're working to debug it on Linux servers, and we are going to be posting a hotfix to switch over the Social Tavern servers to Windows, probably after we test it and make sure it works. So I might be speaking ahead of myself in order to fix the issue as quickly as possible. We also have here, are we going to fix the legendary drop rate? Yes.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Oopsie.
There we go. So we are fixing it. That was his bad.
My bad.
It was another person's. It's being fixed.
Yeah.
That's what's important. So here we go. Let's start with these questions. So the top question is from Gutu, and he wants to know. A long time ago, we talked about hero deck leveling and hero deck prestige systems. Where is this in our thoughts right now, essentially?
Hero deck, we really like those two ideas. We weren't sure about them, that's why I put it up to you guys, and we loved all the feedback we got. We're not potentially moving on them anytime soon, but we're still thinking about them, specifically prestige, this idea that you hit the end game, but what if you want to keep going and or you want to make your heroes even more powerful? The deck leveling part, we're still nervous about. We want to make sure if we do it, it is the right decision to make. So it's definitely still on our plate, and it's definitely something we're still thinking about.
I think a lot of what we're doing is taking the core that's why we call this patch the foundation patch, because there's a lot of systems that we have to just add into the game, and unfortunately adding in the systems and making the game good don't always coincide with each other. So there's a little bit of both that we're doing in each kind of patch along the way. So you can see in this patch we added a bunch of new systems that just needed to be there. We added an achievement system, we added in a daily mission system, we added in these other things, and then at the same time we made some of the changes we needed to do to make the game more fun. And I think you'll see the same thing. Oh, and the other big features we did was make the matchmaking less horrible. So hopefully in the next patch you'll see that we've fixed the matchmaking or made it way, way, way less horrible. And then in addition to add some new features and those kind of things. And I think that's how most of our patches are going to go down the path as we gradually kind of make the game better as we continue to develop it with your guys' feedback.
Yep.
So let's see here. Someone says flying kobolds are OP and Skyguard doesn't have the range to kill it, but ballistas can kill it. So what do you think about that? Is that what you intended?
That was what we intended for the Skyguard. He was tricky, a little tricky to balance. We had him super long range before, and we decided to scale him back. We're still obviously looking at all the feedback that we're getting, so if we notice that there's something that we need to tweak, that is something we'll look at. Yeah, sorry about the flying kobolds if they're giving you a hard time.
So basically, if there's a flying kobold, then you need to place your ballista towers, or you need to get someone on your team to place.
Or react to, yeah. Or you yourself try to jump in and react to them before they get to you. So there's multiple ways to deal with these specific enemies.
Cool. And let's see here. We have. How do we feel about adding campaign mode without any scenario or history? Was it something needed? Because I don't feel like I'm playing a campaign at all, and I don't speak about all the campaign mode. So I'll take this question. I think that the word campaign mode means a lot of different things to different people. We actually had a big fight in the office over whether we could call it a campaign mode or not. The real purpose of putting it in now was to basically fix the grind issue, where before the game was structured not kind of like Borderlands or Diablo, but like it's a good example.
It's more kind of a playlist system.
Yeah, more like a shooter, more like Call of Duty or something, where you're kind of in level brackets and you had a playlist of maps that you would play. And you play those playlists and there'd be like 6 maps or 7 maps, and then when you leveled up enough you could jump into the next playlist, which would have more maps of different modifiers and those kind of things. And the idea behind that system was that, okay, we want to keep people in the same kind of pools of matchmaking so as many people can play together as possible. And a lot of the feedback that we got was that's cool, but we don't really want to see that kind of stuff till the end game. When we start the game, we want to go through in a traditional linear fashion. So basically what we did is we did the start of a campaign mode. We're still Daniel Raya, he's our other co-creative director. He's very hard at work on the story of the game right now. And I think we're actually spinning up some matinee work for some future some future map content, which will be cool and actually start to tell the kind of scenario and the story of the game. But we decided to go ahead and basically just structure out the game in that order that everyone really wanted, which was the linear campaign order. And so then, later we'll be going through that and adding in the story to that.
And actually telling you the stories of each of these maps that you're seeing.
Exactly.
So,
Cool. So let's see here. Someone says the spec node for Flame Burst is broken. The spec adds a 25% casting delay animation, but only adds 30% from the additional fireball. 42 points is 2% more damage.
42%. Okay, that is something that we'll look into. Jay was actually talking to me about that forum post, and we were both looking at it and trying to crunch the numbers to see what the problem is. If there is a problem, don't worry, we will fix it. We'll certainly fix it.
Okay, so you see here that they're reading the forum post before it's posted in the Twitch chat, so they're actually already on looking at that one. Let's see. The spec node makes the Flame Burst Tower eat through the boost aura health like crazy. What do you have to say about that? Is that intentional?
That is intentional. The boost aura, basically, it doesn't function like other auras because when a projectile tower fires, that's when part of its health gets drained. So if you put a lot of high attack speed, that aura is going to go down unless you spec into defense health for the monk. So it's kind of the back and forth. You either babysit it, heal it, upgrade it, or spec into defense health in order to deal with it.
So if you spec the monk into defense health, then that will make the aura decrease less?
It'll give it more health. It'll probably still decrease the same amount, but it'll just give it more health, more time for you to react and deal with it.
But it'll also make it cost less mana to repair.
Yes.
So,
yes.
No, we're good. We're being offered beer through the window. Because this is actually our first Beer Friday. We're doing a review of this last milestone in the room right next to us, the big dev room, and then they all get to drink beer. So we're here
with you guys.
We'll drink beer after, don't worry.
Yes.
Alright, cool. So, oh man, I'll have to tell Alex, we got another comment here that said they love the tutorial animations when you encounter an enemy. Yeah, we're really proud of those. Alex and Abe and Enrique did a really good job on those. I know sometimes it's probably a little annoying when there's 6 that pop up in a row, but I'm hoping as we continue to refine the campaign mode, the enemies will get spread out more and more and more, so you'll never actually get more than one new enemy a wave.
Yep.
Oh, we had another question about the campaign mode becoming a real campaign mode. Yes, that's something that's far in the future, but it's something that will be happening down the line. You have to realize, I think as many of you know, that we're in active development of this game. That's why it's in early access. So when we release in December, and it's like, oh, out of campaign mode, it's like, okay, cool, now I have a month's worth of work on campaign mode now, and it's going to take a lot longer to actually fully flesh that out. So how are they doing against the Chrome enemies right now?
They seem to be doing pretty fine, but I suspect they're quite well geared for it. So.
Are they too well geared?
Maybe.
All 25 plus legendaries?
It looks like they have legendaries there. Is that right?
But I do.
Yeah, you do. Sweet.
Yeah.
How do you feel it's going?
I like it. It's a pain that they can't be CC'd, but whatever. That's what we do. We adapt and overcome.
Right.
So can you describe how, this is a question from the chat, how defense speed affects the frostbite tab?
Basically, what it should do, if it doesn't, that's probably something we need to look at. There's a rearm time between each time it fires, and that should shorten. So it fires on something, it keeps slowing them down, slowing them down, slowing them down. There should be a rearm time, and that gets sped up. So that it could fire for much bigger.
Cool. And we said someone says that the electric aura radius is smaller. Why is that?
It's smaller? Well, we looked at all our ranges for all our towers. It's not just the electric aura, it's the explosive traps. All the towers basically got a lot of range adjustments because we wanted them to fit within a specific range tier, like small, medium, large, and whatever, and exist within that. But now you can overlap them, so that's kind of cool.
And then we have a question here, which is, are there any plans to improve the blaze balloon?
Yes, blaze balloon is on our list of things that need potential work, but Poison Dart Tower needed more love first, so we dealt with that first.
I love my blaze balloon.
And then we have a question here, which is, what about making the end game more fun? So they are proposing a system in which, and excuse me, I'm going to read this I'm going to say it as I read it. So hopefully there's nothing funny in here. So you have 10 maps that unlock from max level. Each map is harder than the previous one. So it's like 10 different difficulties. So to make you be able to progress through the end game after getting to level 25 instead of being able to just be on one playlist.
Yeah. That's actually something we're thinking about. What you see here, what we were hoping to do with this update is show you kind of a snippet, see what you guys, how you like incursions. Maybe you didn't like them, putting too much time into them would have been a bad idea. So this is all about seeing what you guys like. If you guys kind of enjoy them, that's super great. But what we have planned for the end game is probably much bigger than that. We have a lot of stuff related to game modes, little arcs that you'll have to go through, maps that you unlock that you didn't have access to before, different challenges. So there will be a plethora of content for you to go through. That's kind of tiered as well. So just give us some time to work towards it.
Perfect. All right, let's go back to these questions on this list right now. Let's see. So question number 2, when will we see another influence vote?
Soon. I kind of know what it's about. We've been talking about it internally. I'm not going to say what it is about here, but you'll see it hopefully soon.
Yeah, I think we have next week actually set up for the next Influence Vote live. So I think the next Influence Vote is going to be fun. Everyone should save up their points. I know that a lot of people have a lot of points.
Especially over the holidays,
Yeah, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to use those in the future. I think we actually have the next 2 votes decided now.
Yeah.
So. All right, great. Our number 3 question. What are the chances of a community submitted hero being selected to join Dungeon Defenders 2? I'd like to know the process that you guys have in mind for taking such steps to involve the community more in the game this way.
I mean, we love our community. We love, obviously, involving our community. Right now, we don't really have any structure planned to get feedback on heroes, but obviously if someone is really passionate and kind of sketches what they think their a hero should look like, or designs their kit and whatnot, that's something we always look out for and we always love to see. So if you have something, post it on the forums and we'll take a look at it.
And I think an important thing for that is we have basically we're really focusing on these 4 heroes right now before we continue to add more heroes to the game. So I definitely think there will probably be some influence votes and things in the future for kind of what the heroes that we're already working on are going to be added to the game. And then if people want to propose their own things, it's something that we always love to read and try to get good ideas from the community to make the game a better game.
If our early adopters remember, our apprentice had an actual massive revamp pass, and we still plan to do the same for the other 3 heroes. So there's still work to be done.
So let's see here. We have a question that says, do we plan on bringing back some of the other towers from DD1, either for the characters that are in the game already, or possibly for new heroes?
For new heroes, certainly. Characters that already are in the game, we're kind of focusing in on their existing kits and how to make them better first before we basically take on adding additional towers to them.
Look at this pack of dark mages here with their own enemies. It looks way differently when you watch them trying to defeat the same kind of group that aren't resistant to CCs. The dark mage just keeps healing and healing and healing.
And he keeps summoning you. There's no way to stop him summoning now.
Yeah, so. I know, guys. I know.
It looks way cooler. I think you should just not be able to stop summoning in the real game. Look at all these. The game is the most fun when there's a ton of skeletons.
Yeah, I had my desktop background when we had that bug when you couldn't kill the skeletons, and there was this guy who posted on the forums with a massive army just going down and asking whether or not this is actually broken. So I know.
Cool. So someone asked us, does the hotfix for loot go in yet? It's not live yet, but it is up for testing now. So as soon as we end the stream, we're actually going to check in and see how that is, and it will be up in the future. So there's obviously a whole process I have to do to make sure that the changes don't make the game even worse than it is right now. So we have here a question, which is, I've heard you guys mention in past streams that you're trying to make the game feel more like DD1 in ways to help make sure the fans of DD1 will like DD2. What steps are you taking to do this, and what elements from DD1 are you going to try to bring into DD2?
Something that people asked about a lot is basically putting points into certain stats as you level up. Right now we have the spec system, which is interesting, and it has a lot of fun things about it, but it obviously doesn't have that aspect of, okay, I have a few points each time, I'm customizing my hero in a certain way. That's something on the design side we're looking at, how to improve and how to fix both the spec node system and potentially how to improve growing your hero from like level 1 to 5, having some meaningful choices, 5 to 10 as well, and going forward.
And I think part of us being in early access for Dungeon Defenders 2 is really looking at everyone's feedback that they give about the game, and then taking that feedback and going back to what was in Dungeon Defenders 1 and trying to say, okay, well, this is the feedback people are providing, these are the kind of systems they want. How do we do that in Dungeon Defenders 1? And then how do we do that better in Dungeon Defenders 2? We're not necessarily attempting to make the same game over again. We actually have, I think one of the very common things on the Steam reviews, obviously people are very split on this, was that this game is too similar to DD1. So obviously, there's a lot of different opinions there between how close it is and how far away it is. So kind of for us, it's, and I'll use that one as an example, I think one of the things that we identified, kind of looking at the metrics, is that we want to make people have a stronger attachment to their heroes earlier on. And with loot, you get that attachment, but you don't get it till, a long time in when you've built up the set of loot that you have on your character. I mean, from DD1, we moved a lot of the choice from leveling up your character through the points, and move that into the gear in DD2. So we have a more robust gear system, but we're missing that other system. So what we do is kind of come back and say, okay, well now how do we re-add in that ability to have choice, especially early on in the game, about how your character is leveled. So cool. So I think that'll be your last question. Thank you, Haddad, for coming on. As always, we actually have Jay. Jay is our senior designer. He's going to be sneaking in the room right now. Sweet. So hey everyone, this is Jay.
Hey guys. Sorry I'm coming in.
No beers, Jay?
He drank his before. Okay, cool. How's it going out there?
Oh, it's going really well. We're kind of reviewing our last milestone, talking about what happened for Foundation 1, and it's been pretty exciting.
Cool. All right, so we're reviewing it out there, we're reviewing it in here, we're taking everyone's feedback, and both in the comments and this nice, very long document that Josh has prepared for us, and going over with everyone. So let's see, so we have a question here which is great from the comments, which is, are there any plans to expand inventory, more so than the bags you can buy? So like, adding folders or sorting or just more space, those sorts of things.
We definitely have some features on the backlog for inventory management. We are very closely taking a look at how much bag space we're providing, both as a in-game currency purchasing and also as for premium currency as well. And so that's something that we're paying very close attention to. So the short answer would be, yes, we're taking a look at that.
What's the long answer?
The long answer is, well, we're taking a look at how much space we really want to pay attention to how much stuff players are storing in their bags. And so right now it's pretty much only inventory items, and we have some other things we're going to be keeping in there. We're going to start having extra features, and I don't want to get too much into it, but extra bag space for specific features, kind of like we have our embellishments and stuff like that. So we're talking about systems to make it easier to manage your inventory.
Cool. So we have a question here. I really want this game, but I'm very aware of early access titles. Are there any incentives to buy early, or should I wait for a finished product? So before we answer this question, I want to ask you, what early access titles have you played, or are playing?
Oh man. Well, I was a part of Endless Legend for a long time, and so my relationship with early access is very interesting. I actually get a lot of early access titles. So as a dev, part of that is sometimes research and sometimes just plain interest. So I think like right now the games I've installed on Steam, I probably have like 5 or 6 different EA titles. I participated in Soulforge EA. That was a lot of fun. That's a card game that you can play, and it's got collectible mechanics in there. And then I have DD2 installed. So those are the kind of the 2 highlights right now. So Endless Legend and then and Soulforge right now are the games I can think of off the top of my head.
Cool. So now we can answer the question. So what are the incentives for getting early access for Dungeons & Defenders 2?
So I think as I approach an EA title, I approach it as I'm getting into this game and I can play it and provide feedback to the developers. And developers that do really, really well at receiving that feedback and communicating with the community, I think I have a
just keeps getting money.
It's all the piggy banks. Go.
Oh, there we go.
Awesome. What'd you get? Was that good?
It was blue.
It was blue? All right. Are you in blues? All right. But look at all those purples. I think they're purple. Yeah. Awesome. So EA, for me as a player, means I get to experience the game early before everybody else, and then actually have an impact potentially have an impact. It depends on company to company on the direction the developers take. And so I'll actually use Endless Legends as a great example. They do very, very well, and I'll let Phil comment on what we're doing at Trendy. But for Endless Legends, Amplitude, they have a really great relationship with their players, and so when you respond to the forums or if you fill out surveys and stuff like that, it's usually actioned within like a month or 2, and so you can see the direct result of, hey, I didn't like this mechanic, or hey, I really like this race, or hey, I really like this thing, and I want to see more of it, and that will show up in the next patch.
So that's clearly something that we are trying to do in Dungeons & Defenders 2. We have the influence system,
right,
where we just talked about that we actually have we've decided on the next influence vote, and that's going to be up next week. In addition to that, I think we're going to be launching a survey that I just approved from Josh about this current patch to kind of get people's feelings on some of the different balance changes in it. So that's really a relationship that we want to start building with Dungeons & Defenders since it's released in early access. In addition to that, we have some just normal incentives for buying into early access, right, which is going to be free. If you buy the base thing for $24, you get $30 of in-game currency, you get some hero embellishments, and then if you buy the collector's edition, you get some these are exclusive hero embellishments, so you only get those if you buy early access, and then you get some exclusive hero skins. If you get the collector's edition, you'll get $100 of in-game currency in addition to the $30, and you'll also get some really cool tower skins that the Defense Council, the people who were playing the game, some of them since last, I think, November 2013, if I'm not mistaken. They've been playing the game for a really long time now. Will be kind of deciding on how they're created. So I think that stuff is all going to be a lot of fun. But ultimately, buy an early access game if you want to play an early access game and give us feedback.
Right.
That's what I would say. So cool. Back to our list of questions here. We have what are your? Oh man, we answer this question every time. It's guaranteed. This is number 5. This
number 5. All right.
What are your thoughts on trading? What are the development plans, and how long do you think it will be before we see some kind of... Even I Pass Butter is laughing.
Okay. We think that trading is almost a required feature. It is on our backlog. We actually have started talking about it like last week. And so we've been going through the mechanics of what that means for inventory, so it's very related to that. So I think that I'm only going to give a short answer on this one, and that we're looking at it, it's on our backlog, it'll be coming in a later patch.
Exactly, and I think we've said before, gotten in a little more detail, that there's a lot to think about trading. In DD1 and other games, it's very easy to kind of short circuit the economy, make the game not fun to play through, and we want to be really wary of that before we add trading in. So there's a lot of features that you need to add in just to let people give an item to another person.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, there's a lot of features you need to add in to make sure that now that people can give items to each other, the game is still fun to play.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're definitely going to be looking at very seriously in the future, but we're going to be focusing on making the core game really fun to play without giving friends your items before we say, okay, great, now you give your friends your items.
I think there's also a certain satisfaction as well, like if we're talking specifically about items, that when you see something drop, that's yours and you can do what you want with that item. I know that Diablo 3, a very popular game, had a lot of issues with this early on that they kind of patched in and fixed, and so we're looking at sort of the past history of other games as well when we're looking at these features.
Cool. So we have the next question here. It's actually about hot swapping gear sets. They say, Arcane again, he asked, I started a game with a Huntress, and I equip my explosive trap set and place my traps. Before the round begins, I equip my hero damage set. There was talk last stream about increasing the number of hero cards, and I'd like to offer an alternate selection. What about the possibility for allowing players to change their item loadout?
Good idea. Something worth considering. That to me sounds like a great idea for an influence vote. I think that right now we currently have the deck system. We want to make it as easy as possible to create different loadouts, and some players really like that. But as far as what we do and how that system permutates as we, for instance, add more heroes, potentially provide more slots, we'll want to be thinking about other support systems and other use cases for players. And so, like for instance, I always look at the hero deck as bringing specific new heroes into a match. But I know that there's a big community base that builds like a builder, a builder squire or a builder huntress and then a damage huntress. So it's kind of like we got to really pay attention to how the community is playing in that way, and eventually we'll actually have some insight into that kind of stuff, and so we'll be able to make an actual informed decision and then come back to the community.
Cool. So let's go to this next question, and guys, remember if you have any questions or comments or feedback about the patch, please throw them in the chat and we'll get them answered for you.
Right.
So let's see here. We have a question. This one's from Kazoon. If you do not implement something like hero deck splitting XP, would it be possible to remove the level restrictions on maps so it's possible to get your alt characters a bit faster?
This is so great, and I'm kind of judging how much information I want to give, and so I'm currently working on this right now. I'm working with engineering to fix how hero levels in your hero deck works, and one of the big things that we want to do is not remove heroes from your hero deck. And so taking a look at that whole system and making it the best experience, not only for you, the individual solo player or the individual player, but also everybody else you're playing with. So we kind of feel, so that the worst case there being, I'm a level 1 and I jump into like an incursion at level 25, you're not adding positively to anybody's experience. You're not going to be, as a level 1 player, going to be having a good time because your towers won't be doing very well, you won't be doing very well, you won't be dealing a lot of damage, and the 25 guy is going to feel that extra pressure of, I've got this player, this hero here that's not necessarily contributing as much as we would like. And so for that, that's kind of where we're taking a look at that. And so as far as the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, and really I think what that comment is pointed at is, I have a level 15 and a level 16, and then I don't want to remove my level 16 from my deck if I want to play my level 15. And so that we are definitely getting in very, very soon.
So sweet. So we have a question here, which is about why are there no more hard maps on 25++? We actually already answered this before, but I'll let Jay answer it this time.
Sure. So we kind of, with Foundation 1, we set a new foundation for balance in the game, and so we decided internally that rather than push out something very quick that wouldn't be a really great experience for hard, we wanted to really gather some metrics, let the community kind of settle into the new balance because a lot has changed, and then reintroduce that difficulty. I know that we had some problems with communicating that to the community, and I personally apologize for that. We'll do better in the future for that, but that's the reason why hard is not in Foundation 1.
Perfect. All right, so The next question, are there any plans to let us save different hero decks to quickly select between missions? You might not need one hero for a particular map and then need it for another. You can change your deck at any time in the tavern, but it would be nice if you could save multiple decks to switch with a single click.
That's a great idea. We'll take a look at that.
Alright, so is there anything related to PvP planned?
Dungeon Defenders really shines as this fantastic tower defense cooperative experience. We're not ruling out PvP at this time, but we don't have any immediate plans to revisit PvP for Dungeon Defenders 2.
So we have a question here from the comments from Zelix99. It's, are there any plans to change what items Huntress defense mods drop on? Currently, you can get a 30% bonus to defenses just by getting a good weapon. You go from average to awesome with a single weapon.
Let's take a look. So I'm trying to, okay, so there's special stats, which is one aspect of our inventory, and then there's the actual stat itself. And so, not to be too correcty, but like a weapon doesn't actually have as a primary stat any defense stats. And so if you have a weapon, it'll have hero damage, then either your secondary stats, so defense power or defense speed. So I'm going to take this from a different perspective. The special stat specific for the Huntress, for the explosive trap, is a flat damage increase. And my comment on special stats is that we're going to add more as we go. It's kind of this rolling inventory system and rolling itemization. And so it's not the only option, but it is definitely a strong option right now.
Cool. So you have a question here, will you ever add a range stat?
A range stat. So the idea of I'm a ranged character, therefore I deal more damage with my ranged attack.
I think it's meaning in reference to
defenses.
In
the range,
basically
yes.
letting you scale up defense range.
There we go. We have plans, and actually currently, projectile towers can gain more range as a special stat. Not necessarily. I think we feel really good about that because we can really provide the best experience possible for players. In addition, with Foundation 1, we assign specific ranges to specific kinds of defenses, and so if we allowed, and so we've been tuning around that. And so when you're thinking about tower defense, you're thinking about kill zones and kind of overlapping fire and concentrated fire for your defenses against the enemies. And if we allowed short-range towers to go to, for instance, to very long range, we would be really upsetting the balance. Not to say that we're never going to do that, but we're currently happy with the way the special stat works with that.
Cool. We have a question here, which is, have you guys ever considered a blockade that would stop piercing attacks?
We talk about that one all the time, and I think this one is directly related to the javelin thrower. We've, in addition to that, I think that one of the great skill challenges that we've been internally talking about, I'm not really sure if we're going to release this one yet, but if the player intercepts it, so if the squire kind of blocks that javelin, that it would stop the javelin at that point. So we're part of future patches and stuff like that is taking a look at all the different kind of enemies and how they work with our defenses. However, I'm going to reference the patch notes a little bit where we talk about defense health. And so one of the ways that we balance enemies in our game is their cost in green mana against your defenses. And so that's, so if we were to remove that from the javelin thrower, we might, for instance, have to make it an explosion in order to get the same kind of effect. And so we're very purposeful when we think about specifically the enemy mechanics and how they work.
Cool. So this next question is one that I love. I swear I didn't put it on here, even though you might have gotten an email from me earlier in the day about this. So
sure.
This is from Silto. He wants to know, will we get a clear way to see our progress? In DD1, we obtain some sort of medal for each difficulty on any given map.
So the first step is going to be organizing maps in a linear fashion so that there's a nice list and you can check off the list as you go. The next step, we love the idea of scoring. We think it's a great feature from DD1. It's on the backlog, and we're going to prioritize that for future sprints. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So next question here from Kazoon, which is, will you make any function to inspect other players at some point?
Yes, that's that. Another one that's on the backlog. So a little bit more information about that. We think that DD2 is really strong, and one of our great loops is collecting loot and getting more powerful. And we think a very strong social impact is being able to take a look at somebody that maybe has this really cool weapon you haven't seen and saying like, hey, what is that? And then maybe asking them or engaging in a conversation in that way. So yes.
So we have a question here which says, are there any ideas when pets are coming out? Thanks in advance.
Can we be specific?
Well, we're working on them now.
Yeah, we're working on them right now. So I would say expect those very soon.
I don't know about very soon, but expect them in the future. So we've kind of just finished the design for pets. Is it wrapped up now?
Yeah, it's wrapped up.
Is it through the approval process?
It's through the approval. We actually have some prototypes going on right now.
Oh, awesome.
We
like
have
little squares floating?
Little squares,
Maybe
little dudes hanging
video.
around. And actually, if ever there's a chance that we can release some of the concept art, we're going to blow you guys away. It's amazing. It's really good.
Sweet. So yeah, so pets are coming and we're working on them now, and I think we're going to try to come up with some plans, at least on the marketing side, to show you guys kind of the process of creating the pets as we go through it, so you guys don't have to wait all the way until they actually make it into the live version of early access. So let's see, we have a question here. This is question 13. Will there be anything more common that is bigger than an ogre?
At this time, so we have our commando incursions, and so I'm sure that we'll eventually release an ogre commander, and I'm sure that will terrify you players. But at the time, as far as regular enemies, our ogre is our largest.
Okay, I think we are working on boss type characters
Yeah.
in the future that are going to be a lot larger and more impressive than the ogres that are in the game now. So I have a question here is, will there be anything along the lines of transmogrification, like in World of Warcraft, where if you like the looks of one weapon and the power of another, you can combine them for a great looking weapon and also powerful?
So we have two things that we have here. So we're going to have our cosmetics and embellishments for your hero, and we really like what that can kind of do and the variety that adds visually. As far as the transmogs for your weapons, that one's on the backlog. It's a little bit far out, but we're definitely taking a look at all of our milestone plans.
Okay. So I have a question here. Do you have any plans to extend the hero deck when playing solo, or moving it all together so that have access to everything, or at least more when you play solo?
Extension. When we're thinking about the hero deck, we're considering both solo and those that like to play with others. And so any improvements that we make to the hero deck, we're going to roll out to everyone.
Cool. All right, so we have a question here, another one from Gutu. This is number 15.
Gutu.
Any thoughts of making legendary actually legendary? The way the game seems to be going, it's not hard to find a legendary. The hard part is finding a good legendary.
So right now, I don't really mind talking about this too much. We're talking about like the next tier of legendary being the idea of a legendary set. And so this being very targeted, very special stat driven items that make your character much even more. We've also internally talked about an additional tier, but that's kind of a little bit far out. We really want to kind of make other improvements to the game first. And so that's kind of the short answer there.
Perfect. So we have a question here, which is, oh man, this is a fun one to answer. So will there be any old pets coming back, since it's the genie or the imp?
Robot.
I won't make promises, but I've seen some of the
They're-
concept art.
I will say that both of those have been redrawn already in very awesome style for DD2. I especially like the genie.
The genie looks super bad.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to make them in at the first pass. I think we're kind of segmenting pets a little differently than the first game, and that's going to dictate kind of which ones go in Dungeon Defenders 2 first, but we will definitely be seeing them sometime in the future. So we have a question here. This is question 16, which is, after watching the developer video regarding class balance, I wonder how you feel the monk currently fits the goals you set. You set the goal for each class having a defense against each unit type, but monks currently do not have any defenses to use against beefy units. Another goal is that each defense could combo with another defense, and while Boost Aura affects defenses, does that constitute a combo? Serenity does not seem to fit this goal at all, since it has no interaction with defenses. Ultimately, next page, I just feel like the monk lacks any sort of choice in its routine, set down a lightning aura after lightning aura after lightning aura.
We are super sensitive to that. This is a problem that is definitely unique to the monk by the way that the defenses have been designed. We do have on the milestones some revamps, in future milestones. But to answer the specific inquiries, So the lightning aura, it combos very well, and we do actually consider the boost aura to be part of that combo. It's a little bit more flat balancing, but it does actually affect and work with other defenses. But we are definitely very sensitive to pretty much all of your other points as well.
So we have a question here, which is also a question I have for you. Why can't we get a Raining Ogres challenge?
Raining Ogres challenge?
Yeah, in DD1, where ogres just appear randomly everywhere.
So, maybe we'll prototype that and take a look at it. Our ogres, I think, are a little bit more challenging than they were in DD1.
Even better.
So, perhaps, you know what? We mentioned that ogre incursion, and maybe at some point we'll get a prototype and see what that would look like. I'm not opposed to trying things that are super crazy, but I'll definitely go talk to our LD team and see what they can whip up.
Sweet. All right, so we have 3 more questions here, then we have 10 minutes left, so we're going to probably talk a little bit more about this incursion and take some more questions from the comments. So let's see. So can you lift the veil a bit on survival? When are you planning on implementing into the game, and is it coming back as we know it from DD1?
Any particular game mode that we bring from DD1, we're going to tweak and tune to sort of fit some of the design goals, some of the design decisions we've made for DD2. We definitely intend them all to be spiritual successors to any sort of game modes from DD1. I had a brief talk with Josh about some of the ideas that I had for survival, and he kind of flipped his lid and was super excited. So a lot of the game modes, and actually there will be an influence vote later on down the road where we talk about this, will be up, and we will be revisiting them and prototyping those.
So we have a question here, and this is really funny because I actually talked to our VFX artist about this earlier today. It says, will there be an endless mode? Maybe in a wheat field where you can go forever and it just gets harder each round. Maybe with like unlimited DU or unlimited mana or both or something like that. That's
another great idea for a game mode prototype.
So I'm just going to warn you that I talked to Josh earlier today.
Okay.
He was showing me, have you seen Cliff's So Cliff's one of our tech artists, and basically there's a feature that he's adding. I don't know if this will ever make it into the game. So consider this a glimpse into like something that's being prototyped but may not ever work. But where the grass, it moves, and when you place defenses, the grass actually flattens under the defenses, and then ogres and any enemies that walk through the grass, it actually parts.
That's awesome.
So they're showing me over
That's
there,
so
and
great.
I was like, all right, so what we need to do is we need to make this really easy map. It's just a hill.
There's nothing but hills and grass.
Just a hill and grass.
Yes, yeah.
And then the enemies just come from all around.
That would be fantastic.
And you just can place stuff, and it just go on forever.
Defend
it
the hill.
It'd just be fun.
Yeah,
It'd be like in Devil May Cry where they put you on like a little circle
Absolutely.
and they're just fight until you die.
Absolutely.
So,
fun, yes.
So I'm going to push that one a little bit. I was like, Josh, you should make it this weekend. He's like, but I have to work on the spooky map this weekend. I was like, damn spooky map, taking up all the time. All right, so second to last question. Could you think of revealing formulas for diminishing returns on different tower stats and how those stats scale on different towers?
So I'm just going to call you Sot. I don't really know how to pronounce your name, and I don't want to butcher it. So the patch notes have some pretty extensive numbers on where they currently are. I've actually thought a lot about actually having an in-depth forum post about how our numbers actually do scale. So that's something that's definitely on my backlog of things that I want to expose and talk about.
Perfect. All right, so last question from here, and then we're going to take a couple more questions from the comments. This is another question from Gutu. I think he was the #1 question asker this week.
Gutu?
When is hard mode coming back to the game, and will it finally be available for early levels too?
Future milestones, and yes.
That's also something that we discussed earlier today.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So thanks, guys, for watching. I'm going to have Jay talk a little bit about this commander incursion that we're playing here and maybe some of the future incursion type things we have in mind and what incursions are in general, and ask questions away in the comments. I'll interrupt him and throw the questions.
Sure. So incursion modes are basically where we have a very specific commander who influences what happens on the map, and we custom tailor these encounters for challenge and for actual variety and stuff like that. So you'll probably never see one incursion that is exactly the same as another incursion. These are map specific. So this particular one is in the I believe it's called the we internally call it throne room, but it's the ramparts. it's Malthius, and he's a dark mage, and he puts down these healing zones, which is really interesting because it kind of plays with where you have to put your defenses, and then he'll summon skeletons throughout and res throughout the whole map, and so it kind of creates this really interesting tension where players are not only managing the regular waves that are coming through, but what dynamically occurs when they have basically a global dark mage. And so that's sort of the nuts and bolts of the Malthius encounter.
It's awful.
Well, it seems to be. I've seen it streamed quite a bit, so it seems to be relatively popular with our streamers and with our community. And so, actually, if we have any feedback on them at all, if you happen to get in there, we'd love to hear about it. Either in the forums or any other way. So in the future, the way that we like to do it is, at least initially, we're going to take like our special enemies and kind of make a specific named version of those guys. And so there's an influence vote coming around the corner. I don't want to spoil too much, but we've got two. We're going to have 2 more commander incursions up there for the community to vote on and take a look at, and that in and of itself I think is going to be pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure from my reading of it and from seeing the prototypes that you guys are going to be really excited to see what those specific incursion missions do.
Perfect. So I'll interrupt. So we have one question here that I think's been asked twice now, which is in reference to something that we talked about with Haddad, which is how close do we feel the game is to DD1, and are we bringing it closer, and are we bringing it further away? And I want to kind of clarify, and then I'll let Jay give his thoughts there. There are kind of 2 opinions in the community, and then also internally about how close the game is to DD1, and it really all depends on what features of DD1 you really liked and what features of DD1 you didn't like. If all the features that you liked are in here, then it's really close, and then if there are features that are missing that you didn't like, then it's very far away. And the same thing goes for the systems that's in the game. So we've had many people on the Steam review say, oh, I don't like it, it's too close to DD1, I expected something new.
Right.
And then at the same time, we have a lot of people like some of the people here in the comments that say, oh, well, it's too far away from DD1. Right. I want something different. So the real challenge for us is to create a fun experience that's an action tower defense role-playing game that incorporates many of the elements of DD1. And there's some things that we're going to be going back to and mining stuff from DD1 for, and there's some things that we're going to be mining other games in the genre for. So I'll let Jay kind of give his opinion too.
So we think that DD2 really, really shines with very, very strong defense play that is supported by strong third-person action play. And so like even here you can see that Butter is consistently engaged, consistently attacking, consistently participating in defeating the enemies, and he's hanging around and supporting his defenses. So we really like that. As far as feature parity, something that we definitely pay very close attention to, particularly when it comes to game modes. We're very aware of that. We talk a lot about it internally. So that's kind of where that goes. As far as I think, for improvements for me, I think that certain aspects of DD2 are, I'm going to say, a bit more refined, a little bit cleaner. So like when it comes to stats and some communication, the art style, I think that at that point we have something that is definitely unique and stands out quite a bit, not only within tower defense but across the industry as a whole and other game genres. We have this really interesting asymmetrical visual style that not very many other studios take on, and so that's something that really differentiates us from other third-person kinds of games.
Perfect. So we have a question here that's been asked twice as well, which is, so DD1 was really interesting because there are map bonuses for score, like no defense damage taken, no hero damage taken, or no core damage taken. What are your thoughts on that, and will that be in DD2?
We absolutely want that. That we think that is such a strong motivator, not only for replay, but also just as a first time through. You can see cool and different, interesting ways to accomplish those scores. We kind of have 2 systems, actually 3 systems that talk about that kind of address that. So there's the feats, which are little in-game events that you can kind of trigger that give you a little bit of bonuses that kind of can encourage alternate ways to play. We also have challenges and achievements, which kind of satisfy the same kind of thing. Those are one-time bonuses, but they might provide some insight into some other cool things to do. And then the third layer would be how maps specifically are scored. I personally think it's really great to go out and play with 3 of my buddies and then have that game say, oh, by the way, you shot the most guys in the head, you got the most headshots, and then like I get a little emblem or a little score boost for that. So it's something that we really like, and it's definitely on the backlog.
Perfect. All right, so last question, and then thanks everyone for watching. This question is alternate gender swaps.
Alternate gender swaps. I like the idea. I think that we'd have to take a look at the sort of like the internal cost and the ROI of those kind of decisions. And I feel like I'm kind of like copping out of it, but I feel like I want to pass this off to like Danny and have Danny come in here one day and be like, and just answer this question for us.
Yeah, so I think it's something we've done before. I think there are actually sketches somewhere of what they are. The real question is just how to implement them. Are they implemented like they were in DD1, where they're new heroes that you have to play as, or are they implemented as the person in the comments are talking as a swap? That's kind of something that it needs to be decided before they progress further. So thanks everyone for watching. Please play the patch. Go to our new feedback forum that IMISM is posting here, and give us feedback about each of those topics. We're going to be sending out a survey too, so we'd love for all your guys' opinions, and we can't wait to take those in, internalize them, do our influence report next week, which you'll see, and then continue to work on the game. So thanks everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys.
See if you can alt-tab successfully this time.